Hi, everyone. Hope we're all refreshed after that break. We're just going to go straight into the next presentation, and it's going to be delivered by Riaaz Jeena. He's the sales director for the private sector and SOE at Software AG. And he's responsible for creating and delivering sales strategies within the corporate sector, which includes industries such as mining, manufacturing, banking and finance, telecommunications, media, retail, and logistics. Riaaz has over 15 years' experience in the ICT industry. He plays a fundamental role in developing the company's future growth, providing vision, direction, and leadership at Software AG. Please welcome Riaaz Jeena with a round of applause. Thank you.
Thank you. Well, good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for the kind introduction. I see a couple of people still streaming in, so I'm going to do a quick dance until they're all here, or maybe not. Okay, so quick show of hands so I know who I'm speaking to. Out of the audience, I think there's a certain amount of you that are other vendors, like a Software AG. Can you not raise your hands? Who are some of the potential people looking at investing in IoT and potentially want to get value in understanding a lot more around IoT? Can you pick up your hands, please? Okay, so there are a couple. So just a quick, again, show of hands from those that picked up the hands. I mean, in terms of the conference delivering value to you in terms of understanding what you should be doing next, have some of you found that you're starting to feel more comfortable with IoT? You're starting to be a lot more excited about IoT? I see some nods taking place. Okay, so that at least gives me a picture of who the audience is, and I think there's a couple here and a couple in the back over there, and I see my team sitting all over there. So I'm going to jump straight into my presentation. I'm try and be on time and maybe a little bit quicker as well. So 50 billion connected devices in 2020, or is it 30 billion connected devices in 2020? $19 trillion business by 2020, or is it $1.9 trillion by 2020? So I see a lot of you looking and trying to figure this out for yourselves. Right? So this is not a quiz, but I'm just trying to get you to think about this. Is it 40% growth in data by 2020, or is it 60% growth of data by 2020? So some of you are probably sitting there thinking, well, what is this guy talking about? I know it's 50 billion and I know it's 1.9 trillion. But the reality is, do these stats actually matter? Right? And the reason I say that is because I'm sure I've been here for a certain section of yesterday and obviously this morning. And you guys know about the devices. You guys know about the hardware associated with this. You know about the size and complexity around the data, right? But really, do we talk about how do we actually make money from this? How do we actually monetize this? Show me the money, right? That's the reality. So there's a lot of hype around this, and some of us sitting here are probably C-level people. We probably decision makers in your business, and you make decisions based on making money, saving money, and reducing risk. Am I correct in saying that, right? So the reality is, if something doesn't make business sense to you, and you don't exactly understand how it is that you're going to deliver value to your organization, that could be quite tricky. So I know I might be a little bit controversial in saying that we've talked to death about the devices, and we know it can be done, and it's been done. But what does it mean tangibly for you as an organization? So I want to take a 50,000-foot view and talk a little bit about some of the business outcomes that you may or may not find that are in your organization and potentially still coming as some of these business outcomes. So we all want to do things better in our business. We want to make things a lot more efficient. We want to be a lot more productive, and we want our people to be a lot more productive. We want to make our clients happy all the time. I mean, that goes without saying. All of us are consumers here. And we all want to be made, we want to feel better when we're dealing with our telco provider, our bank, our pay TV subscriptions. We want to feel better about all of that, right? But we also want to see issues happen as an organization that's investing in IoT before they arise. We want to be in a position where we can manage and reduce that risk as far as possible. But today, I want to touch on, and I say touch on because it's not a definitive guide to making money with IoT, because I wouldn't be standing here and speaking about them making all of that money. Really about creating new services and new business models. And to start thinking about how it is possible that what kind of models are there? Are these models suitable for your organization? Do they make sense for your organization? So another quick question. There's a couple of stats on here. So maybe I should ask the question in a slightly different way. How many of you that are here have already invested in IoT? Show of hands. So there's 1, 2. Okay, cool. How many of you are thinking about it? There's some experiments planned, and it's something that is on your radar, but you're not quite there yet. So you've invested and you're still not 100% sure. Why is that? I mean, you can scream it out, you can shout it out. Why is that the case? Okay, it's exactly what I'm talking about. So this company still hesitant to jump, and the main reason, right, is because you're still trying to make sure of the use case. You still want to find that perfect use case, right? So along with that, there's too much risk, okay? It's too expensive, right? It's too disruptive to your organization, and unless you're in some sort of very specific area in your business that it allows you to play and go and do experiments, it can become quite too disruptive. I think that a lot of it has got to do with the fact that actually we don't know we're going to make money out of it, right? I see you nodding your head over there. And that's why companies are still potentially hesitant to jump. The use cases is a reason. There's all of these reasons, but they're just not sure how they're going to be making money. So here's an organization that we've worked with. It says large European telco, but I'll say they're based in Turkey, so that'll give you an indication of what I'm talking about. Look at the numbers. We're talking about a $15 million, roughly, ROI in year 1, right? It's possible. We're talking about them being able to talk to their customers in a lot more effective way, and a 10 times increase in offer uptake. It might not be relevant to all of you, but those are some of the results that are possible. So it's happening, and I think you have to find the use case that's suitable for your organization. So that's the as is. So what are some of the obstacles and some of the challenges, and maybe some of you will not, and maybe some of you will disagree, but as you become more mature with IoT, your volumes of data and information start increasing dramatically, right? So a lot of nods taking place. But in doing that, your customers expect you to be in a position where you can respond a hell of a lot faster. Because there's more and more, they want more, give me more. So your response time is becoming negligible. You have to respond instantaneously, and your data keeps growing. But how come? And this is really around, okay, so how mature are you as an organization? And sometimes we've got to take a deep breath and say, let's peg ourselves. Let's understand where we are with this potential maturity model. And you'll see that there's 3 main sectors. The situation is you've got few things and few devices. Your requirements from that perspective in few things and few devices are quite minimal, and you've really only invested in some applications and in some databases. But then when you've got many things and many devices, your ability to make real-time decisions start becoming important and start becoming key. And your ability to store and analyze the data is part of that process. But then when you get to a point where you've got many different things and many different devices, and you've got tons of inputs, you've got logistical inputs of data, you've got social inputs of data, mobile, you've got smart sensors all over the place. You've now started to think about not just low latency messaging, but now you need to start thinking about how do you integrate all of this information and how do you integrate all of this data. And in our world, that is about thinking of data in an event. Thinking about streaming analytics, thinking about complex event processing. And I don't want to get into the technical technical blurb because you can be directed to our booth where the guys will talk to death to you about all of these interesting things. But really, it's about thinking of data in an event way. So thinking about an internet of events. And I know yesterday there was internet in things, and we talk about all of these different ways of looking at IoT. But the internet of events is something that is close to us because we think of the events that trigger off the actions that need to take place before they happen. And also making things intelligent. So not just the internet of things. Things need to start becoming intelligent, and you do that through what we believe is contextualizing the information and contextualizing the data to really get to this place where things start becoming intelligent. They might not be intelligent by themselves, but with the data surrounding them, they start becoming intelligent. So, small punt, but a lot of organizations out there that are trying to sell you IoT can do two of these two things very well. The one is they can really gather up a lot of data very quickly from sensors, which is great. They can analyze that information, and they can understand where that information is coming from. But a lot of them are not in a position where they can actually help you take action and help you determine what the best action is to take place with this information that you've now received. So from our perspective, I mean, it's really about understanding where that information is coming from an integration perspective, and reaching that information with context from a context perspective, and then really getting to this place where you start operationalizing this information and becoming more intelligent, and placing rules around them so that you understand what it is that you should be doing with that type of information and where you should be led to. So you're probably sitting there thinking, oh, wait a minute, this guy's talking a whole lot about stuff we already know, potentially. Where's the making money part, right? So from a software AG standpoint, we believe there's 4 prevalent models. And I don't want to talk through to you about all of them because some of them are how do you make your business better? How do you make your business more efficient? How do you optimize what you've already got? How do you extend some of your platforms? Like Tesla keeps extending their platform, their car with more and more updates. Your Apple iOS device does exactly the same thing. I really want to talk about this charge model. And there's a quick example of an organization called Drive Now that has an ability for you to walk up to a vehicle, which is a physical, we'll call it a device, but it's a vehicle. You can walk up to that vehicle. The video's not playing, but it's fine. I'll talk through it. Walk up to a vehicle and scan a barcode. It's got a scanner. You scan your it's like a credit card. You get a PIN number. You get into the car. You put your PIN number in, and you drive off. And you basically pay as you use. You drive from place A to place B, or point A to point B. It's time of day based charging. So if it's peak afternoon in the morning, you have the ability now to decide how you spend that money. But it's a vehicle and it's a device. That's essentially what it's become. So it's really about turning a product into a device. To talk a little bit further about this charge model and understand, so what does this charge model mean? There are 4 main areas that are starting to become very interesting. And I think some of you will probably not necessarily read through all of this, but there's organizations that are selling their hardware premium through, I guess, it's a price premium, an extension of their hardware. Fitbit is one of those. So I'm sure many of you have got Fitbits, and you can get data, statistical information on your Fitbit, and you can understand what it is that you've done for the day. But there's a premium service that you can opt in for, which is a couple of dollars a month, and it will now tell you, based on the historical information, based on what you're currently doing, what it is that will happen next, where you could be getting to. So if you're preparing to run for a comrades, as an example, it will allow you to get to that point, and it will allow you to understand how you need to be getting to that point based on your historical information. That's an example of hardware premium. Ecosystem building is another one. We've got a financial institution, a local financial institution, who have decided to use their platform of how they interact with their clients as an opportunity to sell their service to other fintechs. So it's cutting edge. I mean, no one's thinking about doing this. I mean, we've got 4 major banks and tier 2 banks, and it's one of the tier 2 banks that are considering how they do this. And then you've got data revenue. I quite like this one because it's Michelin using sensor data and sensor information to understand what is happening on the roads at a specific location, using that information and selling it on to other tire manufacturers, to car manufacturers, et cetera, et cetera. So data revenue is also starting to become very interesting. And the service revenue, I've given an example before, but VW is also using service revenue to start thinking about how do they extend their services to our clients? How do they help them with navigation? How do they help them with maintenance and understanding when things are supposed to be happening with their vehicle, in addition to just their onboard computer telling them these things. So those are some of the monetization charge models that are out there for IoT. And it's really just a snippet of what's possible, but it's about getting, I guess, the audience and I guess ourselves to start thinking about what is possible with IoT and making money out of IoT. And I'm hoping you remember the show me the money slide, and that's really, really what it's all about. So a couple of more examples, and then I'm going to finish off. There is a US energy company, and I mean, we've all seen this to death. I'm sure we have. But the reality is that smart meters do save money. Yesterday there was discussions around using sensors in copper, et cetera, et cetera. All of those things are starting to become possible. This really is about telling you what is actually possible from a making money and saving money perspective. That's one example. GE was one of our clients as well, saves more than $3.5 million a year and $1,000 per engine by understanding what's going to be happening with the engines before they even happen. And that's another significant chunk of potential money making and money saving that allows you to start thinking outside of just, okay, the devices do X. It's really about starting to think about what actually makes money for me as an organization. So we have a platform that does that. There's tons of data sources out there. We've got the ability to collect all of this information, really to start make sense of all of this information, integrate the data, whether it be data at rest, data in flight, and then really to get to this place where we can start thinking about some of the use cases that you may be thinking about and start creating solutions around those use cases. So, the reality about this is that from our perspective, it's a digital business platform that's going to get you to this point, and it's a digital business platform that's going to allow you to take these devices and these sensors that are meaningless by themselves and start making real money out of them. But I just want to make sure that you remember it's a journey. So you're not necessarily going to have the perfect use case just yet, but really start thinking about the outcomes that you wanna get to. Start thinking about what is the end goal. What is it that we are trying to achieve as an organization, and how is it possible that IoT can allow us to get to that point. So with that, I'm going to ask all of you, when you have an opportunity, come past our stand, let's have a discussion and talk a little bit more about what Software AG is capable of doing in the IoT space. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Riaaz.